So if you're behind and single at 30, this video is for you. You know, I feel like this video really hits home for me because in 2 days I'm turning 35. I'm going to be in my mid 30s. That is freaking crazy. As I was reflecting on my life, I was thinking like at 25, I thought I would have my whole life figured out. I thought I'd have, you know, the waifu, the kids, the home, everything, right? And I'm at this point in my life and I don't have any of that. And life just took a different turn for me. You know, like I look at my 25-year-old self and I was like, I was a token Asian role model. Like I had everything. I had the 6-figure career. I had all that. But what I realized is that that life made me so miserable. And I think about the ways that I coped. No one knows that I was addicted to pornography. No one knows that I was like having health problems or hated my life every day. And I thought about committing like a lot. I think the only person that kind of knew was like my ex at the time. And even then I was trying to like make everyone happy. You know, my mom didn't like my ex, my friends didn't like my ex, you know, but you know who did like my ex? I did, because I was dating her and I didn't stand up for her. And I was like, F-. And I'm just like, never did I once ever ask myself, what does Kevin want? And it just goes to show you that, you know, I see these trends of like, you know, I have no friends, you know, I feel behind, I'm single, I'm this and that, right? All these things that we don't have. And it all stems from, I believe, one thing. It's like we're taught through school, through society, is that we should have all our figured out. But the more people I talk to, especially really successful people, I've been getting invited to these crazy ass parties, and like they all feel like no one ever feels like they have their together. In fact, one of the people I really looked up to, I did a podcast on, I saw Vanessa Lau like completely quit the industry, and from the outside looking in, she was having 500K months. She was having all these like things, but it was making her unhappy. And I will say this, right, is that, you know, the one thing I am very proud of, like over these last few years, after going through the death of my father, after going through that whole like pharmacy drama of like my YouTube channel out of nowhere, it was super PC back then. And then after like hitting corporate burnout just from working so hard all the time, is like the one thing I'm really proud of is that I prioritize trying to figure out what made me happy, taking space for myself. As corny as that sounds, I think that's what people really need to do sometimes if they can make it work out. It's not uncommon to see really successful entrepreneurs suddenly do like Uber or Starbucks. I mean, Vanessa, she quit her 6-figure corporate job just to work at Starbucks of all places, right? And it's important not to look down on people who do on that too. And for me, I was doing inbound sales. For me, like I was doing the YouTuber thing, and I'm very lucky that, you know, I was very financially smart when I was a pharmacist. I was like, man, I was like living very minimal on like a 6-figure salary. But I realized that there's no amount of money that would ever make me happy. And when I think about like, you know, the anxiety that started happening at 15, 25, and 35, I thought about like how happy I was just as a kid, like that 5-year-old, how I was like carefree. And why was I so happy? You know, like I was going to Chinese school, learning Cantonese. I barely remember it anymore, right? I was learning all the time. I would go to a library and just like take out books from the library, and my mom and I would like, and my brother, we would always go to the library and just like read, and that made me so happy. I remember, not at 5, but I was a little younger, but one of my best memories with my father before he passed away was like, I used to lie on my dad and just, we would read the book Hop on Pop all the time. I think about those like moments. I was very satisfied. And then like I would go to a park, you know, and chop it up with friends. Like it was so funny. My mom was like, how do you make all these friends? And my mom was always saying like, you're so social, you know, so it's the relationships, right? And then I would always be drawing, playing with Legos. I was doing all that, and I was very happy. I was even doing martial arts back then. I was like doing kung fu and stuff, and it was really fun. And I look 30 years later, right? And you know, a few years ago, I would have said like, I'm miserable. Like I feel like I'm suffering every single day, and I don't know when the suffering is gonna end. But I think like all these things of having no friends and all that is because we prioritize work. We prioritize the things that make us very, very unhappy. And we do it a lot of times for, survival, or what we think is survival sometimes. But in reality, it's like a lot of expectations that are put onto us, Does that say I'll never have a home, or never have I don't know about the home, but never have a 7-figure, 8-figure business? No, I don't think so. I have very big dreams. Never in my life have I felt like I've been on a vehicle that can actually execute on those things. We're launching an agency. I'm hiring for my YouTube channel these days. It's crazy. But I will say, regardless of the work life, right? I look at myself and I'm just very, very proud for going through therapy, doing a lot of journaling, noticing how I'm feeling, building that relationship with myself, trying to do more of the things that make me happy, like making friends, doing jujitsu, shooting these YouTube videos, which really stimulates my creative mind, reading books. And I realized that it doesn't take that much to make us happy. It really doesn't. But even when I had those things, even last year, I still felt like there was something missing. And I think one of the things that I just discovered, I was reading the book, The Way of the Superior Man, and it talks about how every person needs to find their purpose. Purpose is the most important thing. It's more important than your hobbies, more important than your interests, more important than making money. And I think I found it. The other day I was on my friend's, on her IG live, and she was just saying oh, Kevin, what's your purpose? And I was like, I think something that I'm really, really great at is that my friends will say too. It's building real relationships like this through conversations, content, and just connection. One of the things that has been really, really fulfilling for me personally is connecting my friends to other friends. Sometimes that means through business. Sometimes that means, just as a get together, a catch up. But I realize there's so many people like you and me where we feel alone. And I realize a lot of people feel the same way, no matter how successful they are on the outside. We all crave that connection sometimes. And I think that's where I really strive, and that's the value I add to most people. It's I try to think about, who would be a really good connection for this person, right? It's like playing a friend matchmaker. And through that, I've met so many cool people. I met the Hormozis last week, I met Vanessa Lau, I met Mike Kim, I met all these people that I kind of, listen to, follow their content and stuff. And it's just really, really beautiful. But all this, finding your purpose, finding what makes you happy, finding a life that aligns with your core. What I realize, it only comes through being by yourself, treating yourself a lot better, noticing how you're talking to yourself. It's funny, in sales, I always teach, Chris Voss teaches this tactic called labeling, right? And it's to build tactical empathy. It's one of those TikTok memes, tell me that you're a trustworthy person without telling me you're a trustworthy person. Tell me that you care without telling me that you care explicitly. In sales or negotiations or even consulting, you have to label their emotion. So it usually goes it sounds like, it seems like, it feels like, it looks like. And so it would be hey, it looks like you're a bit frustrated. And you say this to a client, and it allows the client to talk a little bit more what's on their mind, right? And how they're feeling. But the funny thing is, what I noticed through my experience is that I never did it for myself, noticing how I felt. That's why self-care is so important, and noticing when you're at your happiest, most productive, when you're in flow, the popular term, is really important. Because purpose isn't something that someone can tell you. No one can tell you your mission. It's a self-discovery phase, and until we take the time to treat ourselves better, to listen to ourselves, to notice things, just like we would with a good friend, we'll never find that purpose. As a final note, I just want to say, if you're feeling single, behind, and all that, just remember that these things don't define you or your worth as a person. Sometimes we get so caught up in the comparison game, and the comparison game, we know from social media to everything, is what makes us really, really miserable. We start measuring something called the gap, what we don't have, and forget about the gain, how much we've grown. And so if you're ever feeling this way, take a look at your 25-year-old self and ask You know, in what ways have I kind of grown? Because for myself, like, if the 25-year-old Kevin, the 15-year-old Kevin, and the 5-year-old Kevin were to look at the Kevin today, man, he would be so proud and would admire the courage to just do something that is non-traditional, but felt right in his heart, in his gut. Sometimes true fulfillment isn't doing what makes the most money, doing what's safe. It's aligning your core with your lifestyle. And as a side effect, you make more money that way. And for me, I hope by living an authentic life to myself, that I'll attract the right partner as well. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. This was pretty deep, went pretty long, and this is my third time recording this podcast, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later.